This is Paul. Yeah. I was looking in this dictionary and they have what's called Australia. Yeah. There was this woman, Gilliam, I think her name was, a red-headed woman that used to be the Prime Minister of Australia. Yes. This is an actual island in the Pacific, if you really look at it. I've made a deal where I would give the Australian government desalinator that goes around the whole island in these different locations, and then I would flood the island, right, and then I would let all those desert seeds germinate, and I would produce a large amount of foliage and feed to all kinds of kangaroos and cattle and different types of animals. Wow. Now, I had emailed the Australian Parliament about my constitutional rights. Now, you wouldn't think that Australia would have the liability for the United States government not enforcing the Constitution of the United States. But when I made an agreement 4.5 years ago that I would provide fresh water to that whole that whole region, that big island over there in the Indian Ocean, right? They were having some drought problems over the last 5-6 years. Now, you've got to understand how to flood an island. I had designed and innovated desalinators that produce billions of gallons of fresh water. Now, the reason why I decided I would finance the whole desalinating of the water around the island of Australia was I realized the value of all the seeds that are in the desert of Australia and how many cattle and how many kangaroos could actually be produced in Australia if I could get the Constitution of the United States enforced. Now, as I pointed out, it's the 6-year anniversary of when my rights were first violated. Poocha! When my sons were first taken. Now, when you look here, obstructing my right to do business with other nations is going to be very costly. And I know there's some attractive women in Australia. I know that. I've emailed different attorneys in Australia. I emailed the Australian Parliament. I think I might have emailed the Australian Prime Minister. Now, I don't know what the water situation's like in Australia, but I'm not above suing a whole nation for another $100 billion. Now, these top secret societies that I'm starting, there might be some very attractive Australian women that have full C cups where the breast is separated from their chest. Now, we're really going to have to work on this drought situation in Australia, okay? Now, you would think, well, how much are you going to make, to make one of these desalinators? Well, my plan was to put a hose around the whole island. Flood the island, germinate all the desert seeds, turn the desalinator off, and then cover Australia in Does anybody know what Australia's doing right now? No. I'm thinking I'm asking for some women that want to initiate one of my secret societies that happen to be Australian that are full C cups. Now, let's say you're living in Australia. Okay. Most of the island is actual desert. You realize that? And fresh water can be a problem for an island. Yes. Now, let's say you had, 100, 150 billion gallons of fresh water that my desalinator had desalinated, and I'd pumped it through a hose around the outside of the island, flooding the desert, germinating all the seeds so that they could increase the amount of livestock in Australia. Now, I'm sorry, but when I email the parliaments of other nations, when I go through their actual constitution, and I'm trying to start my secret societies, you're going to have to enforce the Constitution of the United States. Now I know that because I've been wanting to get. I said I financed 98% of the total project to water all of Australia. Now, you wouldn't think the evaporation of that much fresh water would cause that great of an effect in the drought. What? I'm trying to start my secret society. Now, guess what I'm going to do today? Where's Jillian? That's her name. The red-headed former prime minister of Australia. Listen, okay, it's Paul, okay? I'm planning on doing a few things, okay? And what? I know. You don't really think this is funny, do you? No. You don't find me attractive. What? What?